Well, since everybody has an opinion in 2018, I would like to give you guys my opinion on if I was in charge of Gibson, what would I do to fix the company? This is my 2 cents. What's going on, guys? My name's Ray, and I have an opinion. So if you're a guitar player, bass player, drummer, vocalist, if you're in the rock community, you know pretty darn well that Gibson, the guitar company, has been in hot water for about 18 months to 24 months, about 2 years. They've always had some flack, but it seems like ever since they filed for bankruptcy, Chapter 11, they've really been under the microscope, and no matter what they put out or what they do is just always criticized and hated, basically. And a lot of it is for internet fame and views. Let's be honest, it's good content to bash somebody as big as Gibson. It's good content. You know, people will say if they put out a beautiful, you know, cherry burst with flame tops, and you know, if they throw in like some EMGs, oh my god, people will freak out. But if they throw in, you know, classic burst buckers, people will freak out. So basically, you can't please everybody, right? Everybody will find something to bash about and make a video about, right? In order for them to get out of hot water, they need to do some serious reconstruction of their company. And if I was in charge, this is what I would do. The first thing I would change is my target audience for my marketing campaign. Now for this video, I'm going to be using the Les Paul model, all Les Paul models, as kind of like the blueprint and like the point of reference for when I'm talking about this stuff, okay? So if we go back to the origin of the Les Paul, I guess it was originally designed for like blues and jazz players, right? But then what is now a classic rock was a derivative of blues and jazz, right? So then like late 60s all the way through, let's say like late 80s, early 90s, it was like classic rock players were using, you know, Les Pauls in the rock community. I'm sure they're used all over the place, even country, blues, whatever, but I'm talking about this in a rock and metal context, okay? That's what my community of subscribers is based on, hard rock and metal. The Les Paul was used as a tool. It was like the cool guitar that people used in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, right? All those players, everybody who wanted to be Jimmy Page and Joe Perry, you know, they're getting old, man. It's a fact of life. They're getting old. I guess you could call them the baby boomers. Baby boomers are starting to get old and are starting to leave us. They're starting to pass away, okay? And I think Gibson, if they want to thrive and continue to grow as a company, they have to really change up their marketing. You know, a lot of their guitars are still, in my opinion, based on like classic rock style, and you know, they're staying stagnant. It's like stagnant water. They're changing, you know, the configurations of like the wiring and the colors, and then they have all these different models, which I'll get to in a second. But it's like you're not fixing the bigger picture. I think you're like putting out different models of the same thing. The traditional versus the standard, you know, it's just no modern weight relief and dip switch, but like they're the same pickups. You know, that's been the case in several years, several models. Or like the Studio has the same pickups, but they're cheaper. And so, you know, it's like it's all the same stuff but different models. And I think modern players now, like, I don't know if this would ever happen, but think about fan frets. That's become a huge thing in the guitar community. Could you imagine Gibson doing a fan fret guitar? People would probably bash it at first, but if it was a sick shredder or a gent machine or whatever, like if it was sick and Gibson was like, all right, we're gonna create a new ergonomic modern guitar with like active pickups and fan fret and stainless steel frets, dude, shut it down. People would go nuts and people would eat that up. I guarantee it, people would eat that up. Nobody would hate that, especially in 2019. So I think you have to evolve. You can't just put, like, if I'm a car company, I can't just keep putting out the 1960 Ford F-150 for, you know, forever, and then I'll just like change the tires out, or like, you know, I'll change the way the brake light looks, or, you know, I'll change the paint job. It's like, it's the same truck, but it's just little variances. You're not evolving, you're just putting out the same thing. And I think you have to change your marketing scheme and adapt and realize that modern players and present day players aren't necessarily looking for guitars that are for classic rock, blues, and jazz. Some are, yes, which I'll get to in a second, but you have to evolve and you have to give the consumer what they want. To continue, one other thing I would do, again talking about the Les Paul, is I would get rid of all the Les Paul models. Now when I say get rid of all of them, I don't literally mean get rid of, don't have any Les Pauls. I mean like, there's like a Les Paul Classic, a Les Paul Traditional, a Les Paul Studio, a Les Paul Junior, a Les Paul Standard, a Les Paul Standard HP, a Les Paul Custom. It's like, I might even miss one. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you focusing so much on all these affordable, lesser quality, different bells and whistles here and there, but you don't have one main good guitar that everybody unanimously or majority agrees with. There's something wrong with every single one of them, right? That seems to be the general consensus. Another car analogy, Gibson, let's say Gibson is Rolls-Royce and the Les Paul Standard is the Phantom. We could love or hate Gibson and Les Pauls, like they are like the creme de la creme of like guitars, man. Like I would say like a Fender Strat is like, you know, a Chevy truck, you know, Ford F-150 again, whereas like Gibson is just like a step up there, man. It's like, it's so classic and iconic, and it's made to be like treated as such, right? It's like, it's royalty. It's like guitar royalty, man. Gibson Les Pauls are like the holy grail of guitars, whether you like them or not. It's like, you can't deny that. And I'm not like, I'm not like sponsored by Gibson or anything. I'm just like, I'm stating my opinion, but I think a lot of people have the same opinion as me. So that being said, get rid of all of these different models. Instead of having a bunch of different Les Paul models, hone in onto like 3, man. Just 3 really, really good ones. Excluding custom, because custom's like its own thing, right? Like, put out a standard, a studio, and a traditional. I think a traditional and the classic should come together, and I think the studio and like the HP should come together, or so, you know what I mean? Like, stop making like 8 different Les Pauls and like keep it down to like 2 or 3, man. You gotta like have at least 1 or 2 really good ones before you can start branching out and putting out lesser models. Why are you putting out lesser models if you can't even get your #1, your standard, you know, up to par by the consumers, in terms of the consumers like desires and needs in their eyes, right? So to recap, change up your marketing, focus on future players and modern players. Look for the future in terms of your marketing, who your target audience is going to be, because your current target audience and past target audience is dying. I mean, that's fact. It's not to be like negative or like mean or whatever. It's like, it's a fact, man. It's a fact of life. People die. Second thing is, stop putting out so many different models when you can't even get your #1 model right. When I say #1, the standard. And my last thing has to do with the 2019 guitar, the Gibson Les Paul Standard, is fix the Les Paul. Fix the Les Paul, and I think everything else will fall into place, man. I really do. Now, easy for me. Oh, right, fix the Les Paul. That's, yeah, good one, dude. How you gonna do that? I have an idea. In 2019, the dip switch and like all these different configurations, there's a tutorial that I think Musician's Friend or somebody did it with a Gibson rep who looks like Paul Reed Smith kinda, and Waldo. Like, everybody has seen that video in the community, and it's so confusing, and they want it to sound like a Strat. He can't say Strat, and he wants it to sound like a Telly, and he wants it to sound like a classic Les Paul, and he wants to sound like... You don't need that with a Gibson, man. You buy a Les Paul because you want it to sound like a Les Paul. So, how are you gonna fix the Les Paul Standard? This is what I would do. It's an idea, and I think it could work. You don't put out the Les Paul every single year. You put out the Les Paul kind of like the World Cup, like every 4 years, or like an election every 4 years. I think, or like every 5 years, something like, not annually, to where it's like constantly just being made. Like, again, you gotta hold it to that higher standard. And I think a lot of things will benefit from that. One, you'll get more research done from your target audience and your people who you want to market towards. And you're not just gonna put out something that nobody wants and you just wasted a whole year on your marketing and your manufacturing and production. You have 4 years, we'll say 4 years. You have 4 years to see the future, ask around, see what the trends in the community, and then put out your product. You project as you see things that are changing. I'll use modern stuff. Like, let's say the year is 2015. Okay, let's say say year's 2010, I'm putting out a Les Paul in 2014. If I put out a Les Paul in 2014 with fan frets, active pickups, stainless steel frets, like, that would be a trendsetter to something that was already starting to gain traction, and now it's becoming like the norm. Like Kiesel does it a lot, Schecter's starting to do it, Ibanez, you know what I mean? Like, those companies saw what's happening, and now they're putting out those guitars, and those guitars are thriving. People love those guitars. So I think if you stop making the Les Paul every single year and trying to come up with something new, like in rush production, trying to figure out what's going to be the hit thing for that year, you just slow down, you take your time, and you put out something that will last for those 4 years. And if it doesn't work, you're right, that's a big risk. But you know what? Things that don't work will definitely become a collector's item. I guarantee you, like that Flying V modern one, the Star Trek thing, in about 10 years that thing's going to be a collector's item. I guarantee it. People are going to want that thing. I guarantee it, because it didn't work initially now, and then it's going to be cool because some artist is going to pick it up, play it, and make it popular. I guarantee it, man. So you have to be smart with your marketing. You can't just put out shit, literally shit, every year and just hope that sticks. You got to put out quality product. And I think if you take the time to hold yourself to a higher standard and said, hey, we're not going to put this out every year because it's worth more than that, I think you fix the Les Paul, you fix all the problems. So in conclusion, to fix the whole problem, again, I say you change your target audience, you clean up all your models, you have a clear consensus direction of what models you want to put out and not put out classics versus tributes versus studios versus studio lights versus HPs, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like, what's the difference? You hone in, you have like 3 good quality lines of a certain guitar, and you run with it. And finally, you fix your holy grail, the Les Paul, you fix all your problems. And you think by doing that, you hold your Les Paul to a higher standard, and you put the time and effort in, and then you release it for that time period, and then you charge the $3,500 that you're charging currently. And I think people will have more respect for you and be genuinely interested, and there'll be a buzz for those 4 years waiting up for that line of guitars, and it will sell. So that's it for the video, guys. What do you guys think about what Gibson should do? Let me know down in the comments. Everybody has an opinion, and you're certainly entitled to it. I would love to hear from you guys, positive or negative. If you think I'm nuts, if you're like a business major or marketing major in college or have a master's and I'm way off, I'd love to hear from you. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just spitballing here and telling you what I would do. And if you have a better idea or a different idea, I'd love to debate it with you and have a constructive conversation down below in the comments. That's it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you're not a subscriber yet, please hit that subscribe button. Help me out. I genuinely appreciate each and every one of you guys. As always, my dudes, stay metal, and I will see you guys next time.